Welcome, everyone, to the Sports Report, brought to you by University Television Productions, and thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Ty Hawkins, and joining me today is the host of Sideline Sports, Rashad Stribling. Today we're going to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs, and yes, football. It's already time for football, a little NFL, a little college football. With that said, how are you doing today, Rashad?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, man. I'm glad you're on the show. How are things going over in the fishbowl with Sideline Sports?
It's going great, man. Radio is great, just to interact with people calling in. It's a fun new challenge. I'm enjoying it.
Good. Glad to have you a part of the show this afternoon. Let's get straight to our talk. We're going to talk a little bit about basketball. Last night we had some NBA playoff action. We had the Miami Heat taking over 2-0 lead over the Charlotte Bobcats with a 101-97 point victory. San Antonio and Dallas split 1-1, so home court advantage has been lost. The Spurs got crushed 113-92 at home. And Portland, shout out to Jake in the back if you're listening, 112-105. The mighty Blazers of the Pacific Northwest have a 2-0 lead over Dwight Howard and the Rockets. Let's talk real quick about Miami and Charlotte and how you feel that series is going.
Well, the big three, Bosh, Wade, James, it's kind of repetition for them. Same old script. You know, I think they will sweep Charlotte. Kemba Walker's a great point guard at Charlotte, but it's just not enough with the big three.
I think you're right. And I like that you mentioned Kemba Walker. They have a nice nucleus for a young team. They got him and Al Jefferson. They're doing some better things. Josh McRoberts coming on strong lately as well. But the two-time defending NBA champions, 2 seed versus 7 seed, I just don't think that the Bobcats have enough. So let's get to a little more competitive series here in the San Antonio Spurs and the Dallas Mavericks. 113-92, as we mentioned last night. We talked a little bit about it before the show. You thought the Dallas might get swept in the series, but this isn't just an average 8 seed. This is a Dallas team who's actually been upset by an 8 seed before. Go Dub Nation. But this is a pretty good Dallas team. You mentioned Dirk Nowitzki. What do you think Dallas is doing to stay in this series so far?
Well, it's typical Dirk. Every single year he is lights out at the perimeter. Dallas, I don't think they have enough for San Antonio and the big three there with Ginobili, Parker, and Duncan. And might I add, with the Spurs series, this team has made the playoffs the last 15 years straight. And they have a chance to embark on history and actually beat the Lakers playoff wins in the Lakers of the 80s. And, they're sitting at 102 wins right now. And I think they do get past Dallas and get to the second round and advance. And they're my pick to win the finals, honestly. So I think they will break the playoff wins of the Lakers of the 80s and finally win another championship.
I think I'm going to take a gamble on this. I think Game 3 is going to be a big game for the Spurs. I think if the Spurs lose Game 3 against Dallas, I think Dallas has a real chance to win that series. I'm going to be 60-40 on that one. If San Antonio can storm into northern Texas and blow them out initially on the road, I think it's going to be a done deal. Spurs take the series. Last night, Portland and LaMarcus Aldridge and the Blazers, my goodness. Aldridge had 46 in the first game, 43 last night. Dwight Howard and the Rockets just don't seem to have an answer for them. What's going on in that series after the Blazers won 112-105 last night?
Well, I almost look at the Dwight Howard scenario as kind of like the Tony Romo of basketball right now. With Tony Romo with Dallas, he's always getting blamed for them losing games, important games. And with Dwight Howard, no matter if he wins or loses, he's always at fault somehow. So, Dwight Howard is a great player. He played great last night, but it just wasn't enough. This Portland team is very well-rounded, and I think they will advance. They might sweep the Houston Rockets. I don't know. That might be the sweep of the series for the first round.
Rockets are the 3 seed coming into this. Some considered a serious contender to try to win the NBA championship. I think Dwight Howard has brought a lot of this on himself with all the media attention from Orlando, getting a coach fired there, all of them going to L.A., things not working out with Kobe Bryant.
Very true.
He didn't show up. He had 25 points in the first half to rival LaMarcus Aldridge's 43 last night. He scored 7 points in the second half. I mean, you don't expect him to have 50, but I think he could have had at least 40, maybe even 35. I think the Blazers, the duo between Aldridge and Damian Lillard, Wes Matthews has been great as well. Batum, I think they're just too much for the Rockets this year. The Rockets need to rebuild, I think, next year. And there's even been a rumor that Carmelo Anthony might be headed to Houston. I think they could be missing that score.
True, but I hope he goes to the Lakers. Go Lakers. I'm a Laker fan. But you're right. With that big three in Portland. Houston, they do have James Harden at the point. He is playing good ball, but games are won in the fourth quarter. You can do whatever you need to do to get to the fourth quarter, but games are won and lost in the fourth quarter, and they just haven't been able to get it done.
They just haven't closed. You're absolutely right. Let's move on to some games that are going on tonight. Tonight, there's going to be a little bit of NBA action. We've got Indiana, Atlanta. They're split. Oklahoma and Memphis, which is a better series, I think, than people anticipated. And the Los Angeles Clippers and the Golden State Warriors. First, let's talk about Indiana and Atlanta. Indiana, the 1 seed, fought all year to get that above Miami. They've really struggled with a poor Atlanta team so far.
They've struggled the last month.
Yeah.
If you to be honest with you, and that Atlanta team is a good team, but for Indiana fighting and clawing this whole entire year to finally get that number 1 seed and to pretty much struggle the last month, it's mind-boggling. And I think moving forward, they did get back on track, getting the win, and I think they will beat Atlanta and advance to the second round.
Oh, yeah. And a win's a win in the playoffs, but I think there's some internal problems going on. Roy Hibbert addressing the media. Apparently there was a fist fight between Lance Stevenson, lost my train of thought there, and Evan Turner. That's never good. Stevenson's a free agent. They brought in Turner to maybe see if they don't need Stevenson anymore. Traded Danny Granger. That really hurt them. I think they advanced. Do I think they're going to be the team that everyone thought that could challenge for a championship? I don't think so this year.
Not if they don't get it together, and especially in the locker room. When you're having problems in the locker room, that affects your play out on the court. So if they can't get it together, and if Bird can't get that franchise together, they won't advance.
I think Vogel is coaching for his job. Oklahoma City and Memphis. I think Memphis doesn't get the credit they deserve. This is a team that was in the Western Conference Finals last year, took the Spurs to 6. We talk a lot about the big three, but they've got a solid three in Mike Conley, Gasol, the good Gasol, Powell sucks right now, and Zach Randolph, all guys who have been there before. They're fighting essentially just a two-headed monster in Oklahoma City, who is kind of the hot pick right now. A lot of people like them. I know you like San Antonio. They've got Durant, they've got Westbrook, but I think this is anybody's series right now.
Yeah, Memphis is a grit and grind team. They just pound, they grind and pound on the court. And by the fourth quarter, you're just wore down in the box.
Yeah,
Your
definitely.
bigs are wore down, so all you have is perimeter shooting. But Durant, let's just not discredit Durant. Durant is the best player in basketball right now, in my opinion. The guy is the MVP. The guy is the MVP of the league, and he will be the MVP of the league once the awards are announced and so forth. So I think this is anybody's series, but I'm still taking OKC to advance to the next round.
I think OKC will advance, but I think Memphis might take them to 7. The thing with OKC, they're missing, and James Harden left now the second year. That really hurts. Imagine if they had him. I don't think you can have your point guard shooting 28 shots in a basketball game. Sure, Portland's doing it, but that's a different type. Westbrook and Durant have been together for a while. They need to figure this out right now.
I look at Durant and Westbrook as the Scottie Pippen and Jordan of this era. So I totally agree with you. Westbrook cannot keep taking that many shots, and they needed the 6-man in Harden. He did move on and go to the Houston Rockets, so I totally agree.
Okay, and the final game in the nightcap is going to be the Los Angeles Clippers, Lob City versus Dub Nation.
Yes.
The Golden State Warriors. Warriors walked into Staples Center and crushed them that first game. Well, they didn't crush them, but a win on the road in the opening round of the playoffs helps. And then the Clippers bounced back. Absolutely, they crushed it. They crushed it. I think it was 40 points or something like that to turn it off. And tonight they'll be back in the Bay Area. How do you think this game goes tonight?
I think Golden State gets the win. It's at home. See, now this series was at Golden State throughout pretty much if Golden State had the home advantage throughout the whole entire playoffs. I take Golden State to maybe get to the finals, but because they're a young team, very energetic, they have
the Splash Brothers.
Yeah, Splash Brothers, and so. But I'm taking Los Angeles Clippers to win this.
And they should. They've got Chris Paul, Blake Griffith, Crawford off the bench. They should win. I think what really hurts the Warriors right now is the fact they don't have Andrew Bogut. And he's the only person who would guard anybody, if there's even such thing as defense in the NBA anymore. So with that, who do you like to win the finals? Spurs?
Spurs.
Whole thing.
The Spurs. I'm taking the old veterans, man.
Okay.
They can, they've gotten it done the last 2 years. They've been the number 1 seed the last 2 years, best team in the NBA. And I just think the old timers they're gonna finally get over the hump and get it this year.
And who do you think they'll beat?
Possibly Miami. As much as I want to take the Pacers, I'm taking Miami because Miami is playing complete basketball right now, and just the Pacers with all the off the court issues with the locker room, and they just can't seem to get it together, especially in the last month. I take Miami, King James, and company to get it done.
That'll be a good rematch of last year's NBA championship. With that, we're going to move on to a little bit of football. Rashad is a diehard Packer fan.
Yes.
I'm committed to excellence as an Oakland Raider fan. And the NFL schedule has been distributed this week. So a lot of people are very happy. Twitter, Facebook blown up, hashtag this, hashtag that. A couple of games that stand out to you. You guys got the defending champions, the Seattle Seahawks, in the first game of the season, Thursday night?
Yes, Thursday night game. We open pretty much kick off the NFL season. Here's the thing with the Packers. The Packers have to win this kind of statement game because the last 2 years they've lost to the 49ers in opening weeks the last 2 years and in the playoffs. So I just feel like the Packers have to make a statement to the NFL if they want to take that next jump and get back to the Super Bowl.
And there's been some injuries that have derailed the Packers a little bit. Like any team, you have to be lucky, you have to stay healthy, and you have to play good football. I think, and as we've talked a little bit outside of the show, there's some windows are closing for some of these teams. And I think Aaron Rodgers is still young enough. He's a prolific quarterback. If you can get him for 16 games, he's going to be good. But you've got a lot of teams up and coming, not just the NFC, but the AFC. You look at the Cardinals have gotten better. You got, obviously, the Seahawks, who kind of came out of nowhere in the last 5 years. No one wanted that job. Pete Carroll took it. And the Niners, I think, they need to figure something out fast because that division's getting better. And obviously the Patriots, I think they've got their work cut out for them as well, who in an early where – almost a whole year away. Super Bowl was just 2 months ago.
It was.
And we're already talking Super Bowl. So as a non-biased fan, who do you like to go to the Super Bowl, against who, and to win
To be honest with you, I think Seattle will repeat.
Okay.
To be honest. That defense, man, defense still wins championships. It still wins championships. Yeah, all these prolific offenses and great quarterbacks, and, you know, it's flashy, it's fun, you know, when you score a lot of points and so forth, but defense still wins championships, and I'm taking the best defense in the NFL by far, and that's the Seattle Seahawks.
I think they are hands down that, obviously by the numbers in the Super Bowl win. Who do you like in the AFC this year?
AFC, I'm still taking the Broncos. They need to win now, and it showed in the offseason and free agency with them getting T.J. Ward at safety, acquiring some corners, acquiring DeMarcus Ware from the Cowboys. That was a huge pickup. Sorry, Cowboy fans, that was a stupid move. Yeah. But, you know, I take the Denver Broncos to win the AFC.
I think the AFC is, I don't want to say up for grabs, but I think it's going to determine, the deciding factor is going to be where the game's played. I think the Patriots last year got off to a rocky start against the Broncos. If that game was in Foxborough under different weather conditions, could have been maybe different. Broncos were the best team in the AFC last year. But after the performance I saw in the Super Bowl, I'm not completely sold that Peyton Manning is the guy that everyone thinks he is. He kind of chokes. He's got one Super Bowl. Give him credit. He's got the one Super Bowl over a young Chicago Bear team at the time. But when it comes down to the big ones, I saw Peyton with his tail between his legs with the rest of the Broncos against Seattle last year.
True, and to Peyton's defense, that was probably one of the best defenses in NFL history statistically. Yeah. So I understand I understand what you said about Peyton, but here's the thing with the Denver Broncos. They've made so many big moves to win now. Peyton Manning's window is closing. We talk about windows closing. I think Peyton Manning's window, just throughout his career, is closing right now because he has to win a Super Bowl now if he's going to do it. But the AFC, it's kind of anybody's league right now because I honestly think the AFC is actually weak compared to the NFC. In the NFC, you got about 10 legitimate teams that can vie for a Super Bowl spot. In the AFC, you got about probably 4 or 5. You got the Colts, you have maybe the Ravens, Patriots, Broncos,
Steelers.
Steelers I think they have a long way to go. They're still old. They have to keep rebuilding through the draft to get back to dominance.
And I think it's interesting you said, because 5 years ago, we were sitting there, a lot of people, I just say we, I wasn't there, but there was the same discussion was being said about the AFC and how weak they were, or excuse me, NFC and how weak they were, because it was either the Colts, the Patriots, somebody from the AFC, Steelers, Ravens,
AFC.
somebody from the AFC, it seemed like year in and year out, that was able to beat the NFC. We had the Giants for a little bit, but I think the tides, you're right, have kind of turned. And my team is, I think, arguably in the worst conference in football, the AFC West,
Yes.
and a lot of rebuilding to do.
But
for
I
a
give
lot
you
of
guys
teams.
2 years, like we talked about. Like we talked about before the show. I give you 2 years. You guys have made great off-season moves as well in free agency. I think this year's draft, you go offensive lineman because you did play Schaub a lot of money, and he is the quarterback for the future for the Oakland Raiders. I look for him to bounce back from that horrible year he had, and I think about. I'll give you guys about 2 years. The Raiders, they'll be back.
Well, we're still on football. We're just going to go ahead and talk a little bit more. Just real quick, I don't want to necessarily just address who is in the NFL draft because we're pretty familiar with that. I think the 2 hottest names in the NFL draft are Jadeveon Clowney and Johnny Football.
By far.
Where do you think these 2 will land?
I think Jadeveon Clowney, whether you like his attitude or not, he is still one of the most freakish athletes you've seen the last probably 15 years in the NFL, coming into the NFL draft. You have to take him at number 1.
Number 1 to the Texans.
Pair him up with J.J. Watt. Oh, my gosh.
Cushing, a couple other guys out there.
Oh, my gosh, that defense, it might be the best defense in football, besides the Seahawks. Man, if they take Clowney.
My thing with Clowney is I take Clowney. 110% agree with you there. I think he's going to be a better Mario Williams. Biggest mistake I think Mario Williams made in his career was leaving Houston for Buffalo. I know you get your money, you're in the NFL.
Yeah, he left for about, what, 98 million, I think?
Yeah,
Something like that.
he's still going to get a lot of money. And the situation in Buffalo, I think, is going to take a little time to rebuild. But Jadeveon Clowney played in the SEC. Mario Williams played in the ACC. I think you're going to get a different breed of monster. And I think Clowney, with the supporting cast you just mentioned, I think he's going to be a pretty good football player. As far as Johnny Football, you know where I want him to go. Where do you think he's going to go?
Johnny Football, I think he ends up in Minnesota. Believe it
Really?
or not. Yeah, I think he either there or Cleveland.
Okay.
I can see either or taking him. The Minnesota Vikings need a quarterback. They need to help AP out. He cannot continuously do it by himself.
He's taking a beating.
Oh, major beating. The last couple of years, even when he, rushed, he won MVP 2 years ago. Even when he won MVP 2 years ago, that ground and pound wears on you as a running back. And I see Manziel taking kind of the pressure off AP and kind of doing his own thing and work and creating that Johnny Football magic.
I think he either goes after a lot of ESPN and NFL Network in the last few days. I think he's going to go anywhere from 3 to 7. He could go to Jacksonville, could go to Tampa, go to Cleveland, could go to Oakland. I'd like to see him in Oakland. For all we know, we watched Aaron Rodgers go from first round, first pick, all the way to, the 21st pick?
I think he went 25th, man.
25th to the Packers. And they chose Alex Smith, so you have to wonder if you're the Niners now, or you're thinking, hey, what if we would have taken Aaron Rodgers? But they've got it on track over there in San Francisco. But I think Manziel's going to go anywhere from that 3 to 7 slot. And we'll move on to college football now. And we're talking to you before the show. This just does not make sense to me. I feel like we're taking steps backwards when it comes to the
playoff system.
The what was BCS
yeah.
system and is now the playoff system. First of all, let's talk about this. This is something you wanted to address a little bit, and I think it's a great topic for what we're about to go into. Are preseason rankings too early, and how significant are they?
They're not too early. I don't think it's ever too early for college football. I think college football is year-round. I love it, So I don't think it's ever too early to kind of put out your projections for the next year. Number 1 team in the country by far is Florida State. They have Jameis Winston coming back, Heisman Trophy winner from a year ago. They are still loaded. So I just think, I just think Florida State by far is the number 1 team in the country right now. Number 2, I would possibly say, it'd be tough for a number 2 spot. Maybe Alabama at number 2, maybe.
We don't know what they have at quarterback. And from the grumblings we're hearing out of Tuscaloosa, defense wins championships, but you got to at least have someone hand the ball off.
Yes, you do. And they have Lane Kiffin calling the plays.
I like that hire.
See, I don't.
Well, here's the thing, though. When he was with you at SC, you were loving it.
Kind of.
Did you not win national championships with him?
Yes, but that was pretty much Norm Chow calling the plays. He was kind of under Norm Chow.
Kiffin's one of those guys who is a phenomenal assistant, I think.
Yeah.
He's just not going to be the guy who's going to be your dictator and take care of he doesn't know how to delegate.
Very
and he's
true.
not very good. He's just not good at it. It's proven track record. But when it comes to film study, recruiting,
Yes. He's a tireless recruiter.
I think he's going to add a lot to that. I mean, they lost Doug Nussmeier. And if any of you are in Bronco country, are familiar with Doug Nussmeier, he used to assault us on the blue as a U of I quarterback. But that's for another day. I like Alabama, though, at the number 2 spot for what you say. A team that I think is going to surprise some people is Oklahoma.
I was just going to say that.
I was doing a little research, reading a little bit about them. They finally got over that the Blake Bell experiment. I was never sold on him. I saw a kid play in high school. He's 6'6", he can play, but they're the bulldozer. Is that really that effective?
Yes.
And I think they made the right call going with Knight. Not a big Bob Stoops fan personally, but he has won some games, and I think last year when they blew out Alabama, showed a lot about them. I think they could be a dark horse.
Well, that's my pick to win the national title, too, and be a dark horse as well. With Knight at quarterback, it's all going to come down to his development, how he develops throughout the offseason, going into the new year. They have a great receiving core, Bulk of their offensive line returns as well. Great running backs, young running backs coming in as well. They have a great defense. So I have Oklahoma as my dark horse winning the national title as well.
We haven't talked about the Big Ten. Are we sleeping on Michigan State, who had a great year last year in the Rose Bowl? I don't think they should have been a national championship, but they had a great year. Are we sleeping on them and potentially Ohio State, even though they lost Carlos Hyde?
No. Michigan State possibly will beat Oregon. They go to a trip to Oregon week 2.
Okay.
I have them winning that game in Eugene. That's a tough place to play. But with that defense, they only lose about 4 or 5 starters off that defense. So the bulk of that defense comes back. Michigan State, the Spartans are for real.
Yeah, I think they are too. The offense is back. They've built a nice program with their recruits. Got one of the best corners in the cornerback.
Yeah.
You know, I don't want to butcher his name right now, but you know what I'm talking about. Is Urban Meyer not getting any credit? Does he deserve any credit in this?
He does, but he doesn't, because he went undefeated. But who was he really playing?
Yeah, I agree.
You know, the last 2 years he went undefeated. And when they played a Clemson team, they actually lost. You know, a good Clemson team. So Urban Meyer, I wouldn't say he's not getting enough credit, but he has a lot of work to do, because a lot of people saw Ohio State as that potential team to crash the national title.
Yeah.
And possibly challenge Florida State.
When they had their chance, Alabama lost.
True.
I mean, and then they lost.
They lost to a great Michigan State team.
Very good team. Very good team. Okay, with that, we're going to just talk real quick about the BCS playoff, how it is. You were explaining it to me because I was a little iffy on understanding some of it. I don't like it.
I really don't.
I don't know
like it, but I don't. Yeah, I like it, but I don't. I hope we can go to 12 eventually one day. It's just, but at the end of the day, they're still leaving the little kids out. They're leaving the Boise States of the world, the Houstons, all the low-tier conferences out. It's all about the Big Five, you know. And with this 14 playoff, I feel like if none of those low-tier schools are ranked in the top 10 or top 15, they won't have a shot.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, because everything is graded pretty much off the committee they have now. It's kind of like NCAA basketball, but only 4.
Yeah.
So
well, they got, like you said, they got these there's 40 bowl games. I mean, ESPN makes a killing off this, CBS as well, and these bowl games. How many people are really watching these? You know, do you really care about the San Diego Credit Union Poinsettia Bowl?
No.
Or you know exactly. So, I mean, I understand that the people following their program do and might. And how many different times can you go to the Mako Las Vegas Bowl? At what point I know it's good for the kids, good for the program. You get a little money out of it, but I think, like back in the 70s and 80s, there was less than 20 bowls, and there was more significant bowls. And I think I'm glad they're getting back down to that. But
I guess it's if you love college football, it's for the college football fan who loves the game. So it's, you know, with those bowls.
So with that, guys, it is a wrap. That's all we have for today's show. We'd like to thank our crew from behind the scenes at UTP, and of course, Rashad for joining me today. Thank you. And we'll be back more next semester here at UTP. I'm Ty Hawkins. We'll see you next time.